Okay. Good afternoon again. This is the Human Relations Commission meeting, convening at 6:22 p.m. on November 13th. Welcome everyone. I will now transition it over to Ms. Ashley Elliott, who serves as a compliance specialist for roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Bryan? Commissioner Greer?
She's present. She waved.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Present.
Commissioner Blavitt?
Present.
Commissioner Jamil?
Present.
Commissioner Lewis?
Present.
Commissioner Marshall?
Present.
Commissioner Thornton? Commissioner Davis?
Actually, she has indicated in the chat that she is present.
And Commissioner Myrick. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting. I remind you that the meeting is being recorded for documentation purposes. So we will now conduct the business of the meeting. If there anything that commissioners want to discuss offline, certainly we can do at the conclusion of the meeting. So again, thank you for being here. I wanted to welcome Commissioner Davis, our newest commissioner, to the commission, and also make you aware of the fact that we are, I give the executive director credit for this, trying to diligently move forward with finding additional commissioners so we do have a full complement for the commission to conduct its business as we move into the new calendar year. And with that, I will ask any commissioners if there's anything that they would like to report out from their districts.
I think from District 1.
No. This is Commissioner Lewis. I don't have anything to report out, anything new. I just will follow up later on some other things.
Okay, thank you. Right.
This is Commissioner Davis. I have nothing to report from District 6.
Thank you, and good to hear you.
Thanks.
Right. Hearing none, we will then move on because as Ms. Peoples-Brown did indicate, we do have a lot to share. So I will turn it over to her to provide her report.
All right, thank you, Chairman Blavitt. And yay, Melissa, we see you now. So welcome. We are so ecstatic. As Commissioner Blavitt mentioned, we are working overtime to make certain that we have all of our vacant seats filled. Our goal is to have them filled by the end of December so that we can have a quorum. And we are also proactively working to consider those who will be sunsetting with us at the end of December so that we have those roles, those seats already queued up to be filled. So more to come in terms of that. Can someone pull up the PowerPoint presentation or will I need to?
I can pull it up. 1 second.
This is one of the disadvantages about meeting virtually. Ashley, I have it up. If you don't have it up yet, I can go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, that's fine. I was still.
Okay. Okay, great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic.
I see it.
Okay, so just one upcoming event that we want to share with you. And just please also be advised, this is the final version of the format that you'll see in terms of upcoming events. Going forward, we'll make certain that it is more conducive or inclusive in terms of how you can participate. So we share it with you not only so that you are aware of opportunities, but in terms of the commitment that we receive from you all and the support that you all have from us in terms of doing community outreach and engagement. We want to make certain that you have as much information as possible as relates to community events. So on November 15th, there will be an immigrant outreach workshop. We'll send you follow up to this meeting additional details. But as I mentioned, going forward in terms of our public meetings, the information that you receive will be more detailed.
Excuse me. You said 15th? Is it
I'm sorry,
14th?
the 14th. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
So that's tomorrow.
Yes. Okay.
In terms of our agenda today, as we mentioned, we have a robust schedule. We have the 2025 proposed schedule, commission schedule that we want to work through. We have just a few brief updates on the strategic plan, report out on the hate bias stats, and then we will talk about the HRC complaint process, which tees up the discussion that we'll spend most of our time on, which is the closed business process, and then we'll conclude with a few acknowledgments. So this is the proposed 2025 meeting calendar. Uh, we would like to keep up the momentum. We have a lot of great work ahead of us in terms of our strategic plan, which we'll get into in just a few moments. But we are proposing to have a virtual meeting in January. We are required to have at least 9 meetings per calendar year. So we're proposing January and February to be virtual, March to be in person, April virtual, followed by an in-person in May. And we typically do a summer break from public meetings, but that doesn't mean that the work stops, of course. And then pick back up with meetings in September, October, November, another virtual meeting, and then close out the year in person in December. So we know that this is the first time that you've seen this, and so perhaps taking a few moments to review your schedules and just considerations overall. We did do a review of whether or not any of the dates conflicted with any holidays or any religious activities. But again, we want to hear from you. This is proposed and stays in theme with our existing meeting schedule. Are there any immediate thoughts or feedback before we move on?
Is there any consideration to the meetings being during the day as opposed to the evenings?
So I think we will probably need to take a vote on that, which we can. I think it would be better to do so once we have a quorum. Um, Maybe that can be on the agenda for January.
Okay. Thank you.
The only question I guess I would have is with the January. I mean, it's good that it's virtual. Some people may still be kind of settling back in after the holiday vacation, just for attendance purposes.
Mhm.
Oh, excuse me. About the in-person meeting, about the daytime meetings, I wasn't talking about for the virtual meetings. I was talking about for the in-person meetings. I just want to clarify that.
So if we were considering an earlier meeting, would it be maybe around 5:30, somewhere around there? Possibly.
What is being proposed? Um,
Yeah, I would think, I mean, most people get off from work somewhere between 4:30 and 5, those that work. So I would think that anything earlier than 5:30 may present an issue, possibly. And then also, if we're going to do a different time for virtual as opposed to in person, that may create some confusion as well. So maybe keeping some consistency.
I agree with it.
Okay. Thank you for your feedback. We will just prepare this to be a part of the January meeting schedule. What we'll also do is send out a poll to see if January 8th works for the majority in order to discern whether or not we should pivot to perhaps a later day. Or to be quite honest, what we'll do is just discern whether or not just in the poll, January 8th or a later day works. We'll just put it out there just to see what works best for most.
Well, my vote would be moot since December is my last service period.
Well, as an attendee, we want to hear back from members of the public as well.
Right, I'm sure.
Okay. Any other discussion before we move on? Again, we'll go. We'll leave this as proposed. We'll send this. We'll of course send out the presentation, and so you will have this available to review. But in addition to that, as stated, we'll send out a poll to see what date and time frame works best for most in January.
So while we are talking about the schedule, the next month, that be part of our discussion now as to what we are going to do. Has it been decided whether it's the 10th or the 18th of December to have a in-person?
So we will do follow up after probably tomorrow, between tomorrow and Friday, just to allow everyone to have an opportunity to weigh in. We haven't received feedback from everyone. I checked right before we joined this call.
Okay.
And just for everyone's awareness, what Commissioner Jamil was mentioning is related to a potential December 2024 meeting. And so we sent out a poll. If you haven't seen it, we'll send out a reminder tomorrow morning. We just kindly ask that you participate so that we can discern whether or not we have majority consensus, and if so, what date works best in December to have a meeting. Okay. All right. So very quickly, the strategic plan. We all know that that was a labor of love. Melissa, you know, Commissioner Melissa, you know, because I mentioned it to you during your interview. But we do have 3 defined goal areas, as well as strategies attached to them. At the top of the year, once we have more commissioners on board, we want to truly focus on defining what those action items are. So we won't get into any of that for the remainder of 2024. But at the top of January, at least for the first quarter, we want to spend some time defining what those action items are, short term, midterm, long term. And then by the second quarter, be able to begin initiating the actions defined. So we'll make certain that we send out the strategic plan just to make certain that people have it saved. But just know what's coming. We wanted to give you that preview as well as an update. Again, we know that this isn't really readable on the slide. So we'll send out a separate Word document, which is there's a screenshot of the hate bias stats. But what's most interesting is the trend. So we do see we did receive and we do see that there was a spike in October. So we received the October data. And so we're just going to continue to monitor this. I do anticipate uh, maybe one or more activities truly being dedicated to diving into what's happening here. So these are just kind of the numbers telling us that there are issues around certain seasons, around certain periods of the year. We also can discern what's happening socially, culturally, in our environment. Uh, so I really look forward into taking what we see here and narrowing it down into some true action steps to mitigate. And we also know uh, that this isn't all. We know that there is a campaign that we've discussed ongoing, that we need to prioritize to let folks know that, hey, you can report this. This should be reported. We need to know what's happening. We know that these are actually underreported numbers, as astonishing as this appears on surface. So those are two action items. One, championing uh, the overall promotion of reporting, and then two, diving deeper into the stats that are available.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
How many cases were opened in this year and how many have been closed? And also whether the police department is providing us any data?
In terms of hate bias, how many cases have been open and closed, or are you talking about the closed case process, business process?
All of them since, say, January to this year. It's like an annual data.
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of the hate bias stats, what we can confirm, because I actually don't know the answer, if the stats that we are receiving are just what's reported by the officer, or if any of these are still open cases. We don't have that information available. We just received this is what was reported to us during this specific month. In terms of the closed cases, we'll get into that a little later in today's presentation.
Yeah, but did the police department share any data on hate bias?
So this is
Because if people think directly to the commission, they might report in the police department.
I'm sorry.
I was saying that there are bias reports being filed with the police department. Do they share that statistic with the commission?
So the extent of what we receive is what we have shared with you. So this, I know, as I mentioned, you can't see it very well, but it includes the cultural group that was impacted for specific hate bias or hate crime. And so that's the extent of information that we received to date. But what I would also, and I think we've discussed it in other meetings, but what I would like to do is perhaps invite a representative from the police department to come and speak with us. I don't know if that occurred prior to my tenure, um, but I think it will be very good to hear from them on how the information is collected, because we're only reporting what we receive. And I think that the question that you raised is, you've raised it several times, and you're not the only one who has raised it in the past. So we want to make certain that we're responsive and able to provide you the most accurate information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, so would you know the very next slide it talks about the HRC complaint metrics. So we are actually in the process. These are the various metrics that we're looking to pull and that we're tallying up. We have a final report that's due by December 31st. And so that information will definitely be in our report, but we'll be able to share this information in early December when the process, as I mentioned, of just going through the numbers and just double checking to make certain that we have the most reliable and valid information in terms of these metrics. Okay, closed cases. So what I'll do now is just provide a review of, and I know Commissioner Greer, you and I did not have an opportunity to connect beforehand. And Commissioner Davis, I know that this will be the first presentation that you've received concerning this, but the closed case, I'm sorry. Okay. The closed case business process is something that occurs on a quarterly review cycle in terms of the commissioner's engagement. So the cases will be distributed on the first of every quarter, the first month of every quarter, provided via a secure electronic transfer. So you all will receive, it'll be through SharePoint, you'll receive a link to access the appropriate files. In terms of the business process, cases must be reviewed within 30 days. Review questions, as you're reviewing the cases, you should be considering, we've given you a list of thought-provoking questions. And then we also gave, which we will highlight in just a few moments, specific decision point questions that we want to hear from you concerning. In addition to this, we kindly request a written analysis, which we'll discuss here today, on the next steps, the recommended action items and next steps. And then you'll just see here recommendations will be provided at the November, March, and May HRC meetings. Just to, and you all received this already, the closed case business process, but we wanted to just reemphasize it here. The authority is within Article 29. Commissioners may conduct a hearing based upon patterns of discrimination. The commission may hold an immediate hearing regarding patterns of discrimination which are not subject, which are not the subject matter of a complaint filed under this title. And then the purpose of the hearing is to resolve the problem promptly by gathering the facts and making recommendations to appropriate persons. And the recommendations of the commission under this section do not constitute a binding order on any person. So we're providing you all the closed cases to review to discern whether or not there are any patterns of discrimination. And this is the authority to act on should that exist. The investigative review, as I mentioned, we will distribute the closed cases on a quarterly basis via electronic secure transfer. The closed case will include an overview summary, and the complainant and respondent personal identifiable information will be redacted. It's important that we maintain neutrality as much as possible. And in order to do that, we will not share any names, any identifiable information to just maintain the integrity of the review. In terms of the time frame, closed cases should be reviewed by, it says the subcommittee, but because we don't have a quorum, it's all of the active commissioners at this time. Within 30 days upon receipt, a written analysis of the case along with recommendations would be sent to the commission chair as well as the executive director within 15 days after your review. And then the presentation, where it says a presentation to the commission regarding general analysis, the presentation is done by the commissioner in whom is reporting out. These are the probing questions, the thought-provoking questions that were shared to provide for consideration as you work to identify patterns of discrimination. And in terms of recommended action steps, there are now 3. So we talked a little bit about the authority, which ties to the recommendation for a special hearing. Should a special hearing be recommended, the commission chair would recommend the time frame to convene the special hearing. Can include public testimony from entities that are relevant to the case. The purpose is to gather facts and make recommendations to resolve discriminatory problems. And the recommendations from the special hearing will be forwarded to the county executive and members of the county council. Another recommendation that could come from all of this in lieu of a special hearing could be other legislative policies, trainings, and or community engagement initiatives. We will forward recommendations to the DEI Community Council. The DEI Community Council, which we're currently recruiting for, would work collaboratively to plan and convene community education and awareness, equitable access to government opportunities, resources and services, public policy analysis and impacts, public accommodations, and other relevant topics. Would also assist in the planning of community initiatives and or events designed to foster a culture that acknowledges advances and celebrates DEI countywide.
I have the question about
Okay,
the hearing. But
just for a moment, Commissioner, I want to finish the recommended action step options.
Okay.
The third option would be to do nothing at this time, which would just mean that you may not have enough information. You may want to continue to monitor trends in the complainant categories, or there may be other recommended action steps that don't necessarily fall under the special hearing or the uh, legislation, policy, trainings, or community engagement category. So we wanted to actually add this as a new option because we do understand the reality of what could happen in terms of reviewing a caseload. This is the closed case briefing template that you all received at our last meeting. These are the complainant categories. So there's a difference between the basis of the complaint and the area of the complaint. I'll start with the area of the complaint. These are the areas that Article 29 defines as our statutory authority. So education, but not public education, private education at organizations that have 15 or less employees. The same with employment institutions, public and reasonable accommodations, anything related to housing, as well as anything related to finance. Now, the basis of the complaint, these are the protected classes, so age, race, national origin, gender, marital status, disability, religion, and sex. These were just recommendations that we gave you all last time as examples that could come from your review. And then these were the 3 questions that we asked for you to consider in terms of your report out. So with that, I will pause and Commissioner Jamil, you had a question or comment?
yes, you mentioned about the provision of being requested for or holding a special hearing.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 10 years of service, I have not come across a single case in which the commissioners had to have be present at any special hearing. So is this a new process?
Yes, sir. This is, well, let me put it this way. The authority was present within Article 29,
Yeah.
but this is the first time that it's actually been enforced or acted upon.
In reality, Commissioner Meal, yes, this is, as was just stated, this has been in practice all along. It's now sort of the intent to be more proactive than reactive and really vet the cases in a more thorough manner to then possibly trigger a next step. But often, as you've experienced in many cases, the matter would be removed from Baltimore County very quickly after some investigation. So again, that could be happening still if someone chooses to go to the state for certain matters.
Mhm. I got it. But I was just confused that if commissioners are supposed to be holding hearing or they're requested, I do not recall receiving any request in which any one of us, at least in the last 10 years, participated in any of those. That was my question. So if it's an,
You're correct. You're correct.
thank you. That's
All right. So now this is kind of open forum. We want to hear from those who reviewed and have feedback in terms of the questions that we've outlined for you. And let me just also say as a quick caveat that for the next quarter, we will have a form where these questions are included so that it's easier for you to just kind of, write your responses and provide your feedback. But again, I now turn it back over to you all for feedback.
Well, this is Sheila Lewis, and I did review the cases. And one of the things that I was looking for in the cases were for any trends. And I really could not identify any trends. And I was thinking that possibly the reason why is because there weren't enough details. For example, some of the demographic details that I might see a trend. Because I think it was like the case about it was an age discrimination, but then it's like, well, what age were we talking about? So you can see if there's a trend that would go match for another case, that kind of thing. And I think having some of the demographic information might help to identify trends. Um, because other than that, the cases just stood by themselves. Um, I noticed that a lot of them were not a lot. I wrote it down. I was looking for the paper. I wrote it down on. Um, were resolved, which didn't. Oh, yeah, here it is. Which were resolved, but didn't involve a lot of action from our part because I think about two of them, the people didn't get back to follow up. And I think I sent you the one where I think the title. I was questioning whether the title was correct. I sent the email in because it seemed like it was one thing, but it was another thing. Um, but that was my main thing. I found it um, kind of hard to identify the trends because there wasn't I think a little bit more demographics might have helped. It was a good description of the issues and that type of thing, but I couldn't identify the trends.
But certainly, it's a great point, and it is. And one of the things that hopefully over time, as unfortunately we have more cases that are coming in, we can also then allow that to be grouped better. The more sort of touch points we have on each one, whether it be age, specific age range, or other demographics. So that's a great point that certainly would help us track if there are trends that are going to be presenting themselves.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
example, we didn't identify like ethnicity, so to see if it was a certain community it would be different complaints, but if we saw the trend, it was always the same community. Then he's like, okay, we can see that this is affecting this community over several different things, several different people, and like I said, some of the demographics would help to say, okay, there is a trend. different cases, different issues, but the same community is being targeted.
Other comments or considerations?
The other thing I noticed, I saw that um, the investigative process, um, several were not formally investigated, and I didn't understand what it said. No formal investigation. I didn't understand what that meant because of someone for the issue that were submitted for these cases. If they were contacted by someone from HRC or someone from um, the I to say, I got your complaint, let me talk to you, I would think that would be considered part of the investigative process for them to indicate the discussion, unless this was all in here with the issues. And I think, um, I mean, I just make, I don't, when I've looked at cases for review and that kind of thing, when you talk with the statement of the issue, and then part of the interview with the person would be part of the investigative process, not all concluded in with the issue. So that it, because the way this is, it looks like, like it says fact finding. There are no findings because it was not formally investigated. But if there was an informal interview or something, that should be indicated that that was an action that was taken, that it was an interview conducted. It was conducted on such and such a date, and this happened, that happened, or whatever. And I just thought that would also help to help with the identifying trends in the cases. Um, it talked about they were contacted. It said the complainant contacted the office, but again, it didn't talk about how was that contact received. Did they call it in? Did they send a letter? Did they do it online? And I think that will also help the commission to determine ways of outreach also, which is most effective. If we saw how the person made that contact, that complaint, how was that input? And when I talk about the investigation, like who did the investigation and who took who was it? Was it an aide? Was it a staff person? Was it um, even one of the commissioners? I mean, that kind of thing would help to flesh out the cases. So if you did see things,
On that last note, a compliance specialist would always be the one to prepare this, even if a complaint came through a
mm-hmm.
commissioner, it would be then forwarded to a compliance specialist.
Good, and that's good, and that's good to know. That's good to know. I know you're not going to identify the specialist in the case. Now, know if that's appropriate. I can understand. Like I said, that's good to know. And I guess if we get some of the other things, then we can determine. Then we can say, okay, is it a need to have who that specialist is to see once we start getting this information, we might see a trend that a certain person handles things a certain way. But right now, we haven't gotten there yet. But right now, like I said, some of that other, demographic information and facts in the case would be helpful.
Any other commissioners have other thoughts, comments?
This is Commissioner Greer. I haven't received any cases So I'm kind of in the dark right now. So I just wanted to at least make you aware of it so that they'll be sent out to me. And also, are the same cases being sent to all of the commissioners, or are a certain number of them being assigned to one commissioner?
As the executive director indicated, once we hopefully have a full complement of commissioners, then there will be a subset of the commission that will be reviewing each set. At this point, while we are still mighty in effort, but small in numbers, yes, everyone will receive the same information on all cases.
Okay, great. So I again, if it could be sent out to me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Certainly, and is going forward. The next time, initially at the last meeting, it was distributed on paper as well. I believe it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Ms. Peoples, that everything will be done electronically going forward.
And one more thing about the case now, about the contacts. A couple of cases were closed within a couple of days. Another case took a month or so, and then one took almost 2 months. And having that information of why did one case take longer than the other, maybe the one that was closed a couple of days, that probably that contact was resolved, and maybe the one that took a couple of months, you would have, like, you have to follow up here, you have to follow up here. If there were more contacts involved in that, that's why it took longer. So kind of having the information, is in those type of cases, then you might see a trend that a certain type of case takes longer than another type of case, before specific reasons. But if that kind of information were included, we'd be able to identify and categorize some cases, and sometimes certain issues will take longer than the others.
Okay, so was Commissioner Lewis the only one who reviewed? Did anyone else
So
have any feedback?
yeah, so I know what happened. It was last month that I missed the meeting. I think I peeked in that year. That's the meeting that I missed. That's why I didn't get it, I think, because it wasn't submitted electronically. So I just want to acknowledge it wasn't anyone's fault. I thought it was something that was sent out electronically, but I just realized, um, what the chair indicated, that you all received it.
And actually, you had stopped by though, but that is our responsibility as well to make sure you did receive it anyway. So apologize for that, and certainly, Judge, you would not be forgotten again.
Thank you so much. My apologies, but I'm here now. Thank you.
Yeah, because I received some of them. Uh, yeah, I think it was at the meeting. I thought I received some in the mail, but yeah, it was the meeting.
Any other again, even for those that have reviewed, is there any other, as you see on the screen, any other suggestions that you would have as far as specifically, as far as maybe how to address differently, how to present differently, so that again, this will be more electronic format going forward, but how best to be responsive to these, because it does take obviously some work to produce these, and we want to make sure that they're being produced in a good manner that makes it efficient for us to work through. So there's been some good points that are raised, but I didn't know if there's anything else that anyone wanted to share. Ms. Peoples Brown, it doesn't seem like there's anything else to add.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner Lewis. for your feedback. We do just want to remind everyone that we encourage you to, please review the cases. The next batch, I believe, is scheduled to go up in February. We want this process can only be as successful as we all make it. This was the very first, and we highly anticipated feedback where we would need to make some modifications. And so we're right on schedule. We're right on target. And so we look forward to reviewing everything that was shared here tonight in order to make the necessary business decisions as appropriate. Okay. Again, there is a December poll that's going around to see if folks are available to meet. Uh, we ask that you please complete it and provide feedback as soon as possible. We'll send out a reminder tomorrow. It went out earlier today. We do want to make a decision rather quickly on whether or not there's general consensus. However, in the event we are that this concludes our final meeting for the calendar year, we do want to acknowledge and thank our commissioners who have been serving with us so eloquently. The first is our beloved chairman, Commissioner Blavitt. He has served relentlessly for over 20 years with the commission, and I'm going to miss him greatly. just the historical knowledge that he has been found the true foundation of the strategic plan that we've developed. And so, sir, we hope that you transition um, feeling proud, feeling job well done, because your legacy here will certainly continue. And we also invite you, should you accept, to become a emeritus commissioner along with our beloved commissioner, now emeritus Commissioner Cecilia Myrick.
I would be honored to do so. Actually, I am not a junior though, but
Okay.
but I would be honored to do so. It's been a great 24 years, and there's still great work ahead.
Okay, and apologies for that typo. All right. I don't think she was able to join us tonight. Commissioner Bryant, is she on the call?
I don't believe she was able to.
Okay, so she has served us. Her dedication it compares to no other. She's been with us for roughly 5 years, and she will be another who we will certainly always cherish. Commissioner Jamil,
Yeah.
we will certainly not know what to do with ourselves with your departures. Thank you so much, sir. Again, your wisdom has been just it just doesn't match. It just doesn't compare. I just thank you for all that you continue to contribute and the presence that you continue to convey and to champion. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And oops, okay. And then last but certainly not least, we have Commissioner Lewis, who has also served for nearly 5 years. And so, Commissioner Lewis, I've seen your name show up in other areas of our boards and commissions. And so I do hope to have the opportunity to continue working with you in other capacities. But thank you so, so much for just being present and active and vocal. It is definitely what I support, what I advocate for, because again, this is not a Baltimore County government commission, but this is a commission for the community. So thank you just always for just stepping up and just being vocal in the way that you are. All right. Was there any other discussion that anyone wanted to have?
Yes.
Just one more. Uh,
Go ahead,
we were,
go ahead,
we,
Commissioner Mill.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay. There were two things. The one thing I wanted to follow. No, two things I wanted to follow up on. One was I remember I discussed in the meeting, I think before the last meeting, the issue about this cigar lounge. I had operated for about 7 years with one name, and when it moved into area of Pikesville, more central Pikesville, they changed their names a couple of months ago to ISIS. It was an acronym, but because it was in the middle of a highly Jewish community, um, I received an email from a resident wondering were they allowed to have this name. Now, since that, I talked about that. There was the incident. I think someone from ISIS or something was planning some kind of attack or something in the United States. And again, the question came up. And the question that people wanted to know was um, were they allowed to use that name? Are there certain names that the state has that you shouldn't use? For example, the same when you do a vanity tag, you can say, I want this on the vanity tag. And then they say, well, these are certain, um, names you can't use. And I didn't know if there was a similar policy for the state or there's certain names you couldn't use, and if ISIS was one of them. And the other issue was we received a brochure that information, that really good information on HRC that was given that we could possibly use at presentations. But the way it was printed was so small because even when I received the PDF file and I went to print it out, and it couldn't come out printed in its entirety unless you reduced it, and it was so small. And I was wondering if that could be redone. I mean, it was a very attractive, with all of the the colors and the signals and everything from the county, and it's very attractive. And I was wondering, could it be redone so that even if it was, I think it might be better if it was like a page, even if it was like 2 pages, because it was full of a lot of information, but it was so small that could be redone so that and sent as a PDF so that when he went out to do a presentation, we have something to give to people to go along with that because the other thing is when it folded, it was also small. But I know that when I've gone to community meetings, usually people are used to having the regular letter size paper and having information on a letter size format. They'll pick it up, they'll keep it, they'll take it home, they'll read it. And I was wondering if we could get that done and read done in the PDF so we can get it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lewis. So, for your first, in terms of the cigar lounge, we're continuing to work closely with our Office of Law. They are researching what is and what isn't possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we hope to have a follow up with you before if we convene in December before that meeting. Terms of the brochure, we are working on a series of marketing efforts, and so we will certainly take that into consideration in terms of your printing out to make sure that it's legible and readable um, for different audiences.
Yeah, because it was really small, and um, especially when you go to a certain age bracket, and people have to wear glasses and that kind of thing, and that training was really very small for people to handle comfortably, and it would help because I have already when we talk about the strategic goals, I've already identified certain groups and organizations that I'm aware of. And I think that would be very interesting in the presentation, but I'm reluctant to do so because I don't have anything to leave with them. And it would help a lot if I can have something. Like I said, even if we didn't have the copies, if it was in a PDF that as I needed it, I can print out the copies I needed and that kind of thing. And going along with that, and I guess this probably goes back to the strategic plan, is that if there were a form or format that as the commissioners went out and did presentations, they would complete that form to document that, and you would have a record of something, that within the organization of the different presentations, the groups that they went to, the intended audience, and that kind of thing when it was, so that you could start seeing again, who are we reaching? Are we just reaching the same people with presentations, or are we really reaching significant other groups of presentations? So we know as a commission who we're talking to, that we might have a lot in this group, but we need to start looking for another group. So as we did the presentations, that information was sent back, and we can still make sure that we're reaching everyone.
Okay,
One
great.
point
Thank you. Go ahead.
one point of Has there been any progress in recruiting a youth member to be on the commission?
Unfortunately, no, we still have not identified any youth candidates. That continues to be a priority. We also ask that as you come across, or if you currently know of any great potential candidates, to please send them our way,
Sure,
because we want to make certain we have that representation. So thank you for asking.
sure. Thanks.
I don't have with the email. I remember seeing it. I can't find it for the date in December. Was that December the 11th for the in-person kind of holiday meeting?
Um, when did the email go out? It went
No,
out.
Actually, I think there's questions as far as the various dates and so forth. And if you want to actually, we can finish up the business of the meeting, since we are recording the business for purposes. And then Commissioner Greer, we can talk through there are a couple of different dates that were
okay, perfect.
bouncing on there. So I guess, is there anything else before we do close the business of the meeting?
Well, I want to thank everybody for their cooperation, their interest, and their commitment. Evening time, again, just to wrap up, is more convenient for at least most people who are working in the daytime. So evening time seems to be the best time to be able to do it. And I thank the staff. They have been very diligent in organizing and managing, even though in this new post-COVID time, the virtual communication system does get into some blocks and hitches, and I hope that we can improve that on better. And I can wish good luck to everybody for the future, and all the current commissioners who will still be, God willing, serving well in the coming new year. And once we decide in December as to which day is the majority would like to have to join, and I'll be looking forward to that.
Thank you, Commissioner
So-
Jamil. And I think Commissioner Jamil, Commissioner Lewis, Commissioner Bryan, again, thank you for your service to the commission for many years, and valuable input, not just time spent, but it was the quality of discussion and interaction, and oftentimes holding us accountable to make sure that we are doing the job that we need to do. So thank you again. It's been my pleasure to chair and to serve. And with that, I'd ask, I believe, whoever handling it, administrating it, to go ahead and conclude the meeting of this month. Commissioners, you can stay on for a moment.
Chair, I would, if Commissioner Jamel as well as Commissioner Lewis would